going to get going, and if people join at a later time, that is absolutely fine. They can just hop in. So, gonna leave that there. And firstly, I do recognise quite a few of your names and faces, but also a few that I don't. So to begin with, I'd really like to introduce UKHarvest, my role and my responsibilities there, and the reason why we are doing this Zoom on quite a niche topic of zero waste, specifically potatoes and bread. So first of all, who are UKHarvest? So UKHarvest are a charity that operate in the south of England, and we are a food rescue and delivery service. So we rescue food from many outlets, and we deliver it free of charge to charities and organisations in need, which is, as you might have heard Liz just chatting, it's a busy operation, especially at the minute. As well as this, we are on a mission to eliminate food waste and encourage people to lead healthier and active lifestyles. So we have our Nourish Ed programs, which are programs which we work in the community with people. They are cookery sessions, they're nutrition classes, really getting people to work together, learn together, be together, and just really have a good time through food. So that is a little bit of background about our sessions, and unfortunately we haven't been able to continue since the COVID outbreak because we are very much all sat around a table having a good jolly, which has been really sad because that's a massive part of my role at UKHarvest. But instead of just stopping, we've explored different ways in engaging with you guys, and one of the ways is right now through this Zoom, primarily focusing on zero waste, which is what we are trying to eliminate as a charity. So that's a little bit about me and UKHarvest. So let's get down to chat about food waste. There will be points in this session where I'll ask for a bit of your feedback a couple of times, and we're going to do a few polls throughout like we saw at the beginning. So we'll get going with that, and you'll have your time to have a bit of a chat as well. So I'm going to get rid of this. Is that a bit better? And I'm going to end this poll. Okay. Can you see those results? No. Share results. Okay. So food is obviously something which doesn't just appear. Food is something that is grown, lovingly nurtured, and in UKHarvest we use food as really a medium for people to socialise together, be together and have a good time. Now, you'd think that people don't throw away that much food, but as you can see from the poll, food is thrown away at such a great rate. 6.5 million tonnes of food waste is thrown away a year, with 4.5 million tonnes being edible. So as I can see, most of you were correct, 73%. So well done there. That is very good knowledge or very good guessing. So thank you for doing that. And unfortunately, this 4.5 million tonnes isn't just isn't mouldy food. It's things like bread, it's things like potatoes, which we're going to go on to talk about, that could actually be used to create yummy, delicious food. So to put that 4.5 million tonnes into perspective, it's actually 100,000 wheelie bins a day full of food we could have eaten. I mean, it is quite hard to put into perspective, and it does seem like a massive problem, but it is a problem we can all help with. It's something that we can do from the comfort of our own home. We can reduce food waste. And there are two main reasons why we do need to stop food waste. And one is for our purse or our wallet, and the second is for the environment. So a recent study showed that a family of 4 actually wastes £60 worth a month on food that is thrown in the bin, which is could be a huge saving to a family. And as I said, it's also very important to reduce food waste for the environment, as food waste going to landfill it decomposes and it produces greenhouse gases, which unfortunately contributes to global warming. Now, I read a fact which really shocked me actually. If food waste were a country, we would actually be third behind China and the US. That is global food waste, but if we were a country globally, we would be third behind China and the US. So it is a massive issue, which we kind of don't think about because we just throw food away and we don't see it, but it is causing a lot of problems. Now, you're probably thinking, how am I going to start talking about potatoes and bread? Two random vegetables. And the reason is because bread and potatoes are the two most wasted food items in the UK. So firstly, potatoes is the most wasted food item in the UK. And I'm going to ask you, where are we, to do a poll for me on how many potatoes, close that one, pause. How many potatoes do you think are wasted a day? I'm going to give you about 20 seconds to have a guess, and we'll see what you get. Okay, have we 9 of 11? Do a few of you want to do a last vote? 10? One more? Okay, I'm going to end it there. And I can see that 80% of you have said 1.6 million. And it's actually more than that. 4.4 million potatoes get thrown away every year. Now, there might be a few reasons for this, but the main one is that things such as bread and potatoes are staple items within the UK. They're really cheap, they're really easy to buy, always find them on our supermarket shelves, so therefore they're really easy to replace, and unfortunately we just don't value them, but that doesn't mean they should end up in our bin. Think about, they are a staple in our cuisine, so we do need to keep having them. Think of pie and mash, fish and chips, crisps. We all have our favourite version of this carbohydrate, which we do need, but it should not end up in our bin. Now, we're going to think about 7 ways today in which we can stop wasting so many potatoes. Some of them you might know, and it might give you a bit of oomph to change, and some of them might be a new tip for you. So my first tip for not wasting potatoes is knowing when your potatoes are still good to eat. So I have here a sprouting green, actually mine's a bit purple, but they can go green or purple. It's sprouted, it's a bit squidgy, and it just looks a bit funky. Put your hands up if you have your screen on. If not, don't worry. Put your hands up if you think this is still okay to eat. Okay, most, bit hesitant there. I can confirm that this potato is absolutely fine to eat. All you need to do is either crack them off. These are called sprouts, and they basically are, it's basically a potato trying to grow a new potato, which is pretty cool really, but we don't want to eat them. We can just crack them off, chop off the red or greeny bits, and we're good to go. Once you've boiled it or mashed it, you will not know that that potato was once squidgy. Okay, so that is still good to eat. Okay, number 2, my second tip is store potatoes correctly. And I really wanted to do a poll for this one because this really does split the room sometimes. So I'm going to launch a poll. And if you can complete that for me, where should we store potatoes? The fridge or the cupboard? Okay, 10 of 11. We'll just, 11 of 11, brilliant. Okay, actually, I am very impressed. Nearly all of you were right there. I'm not gonna ask who did it wrong. It was Liz. So yes, you are completely right there. The cupboard is the correct place to store potatoes. A cool, dark, dry place. Whereas the fridge, because it's quite a moist, damp atmosphere, it can cause that potato to go really funky sometimes, and it will kind of rot really quickly. So thank you, you are correct there. My third tip for potatoes is buy the right amount. I know you can go to the supermarket and buy a 1.5 kilo bag of potatoes. I mean, personally, I'm in a household and we cook for 2, and we will never, ever get through that bag of potatoes. It's convenient rather than picking up exactly what you need and putting in a bag. But if you can buy what you need, it's a lot better as well. If you're fortunate enough to have a local grocery shop or fruit and veg shop, you will also be reducing the amount of plastic as well that comes with these potatoes, what they're stored in. So that is my third tip. Number 4, ditch the peeler, okay? I don't know why we peel potatoes. The peel of the potato is actually hugely nutritious, full of fibre and flavour as well. So by taking that off, you're actually making a less tasty potato. I know people might do it for what the potato looks like, but if you can keep it on, please do, because it is so nutritious and less waste. Now, number 5 is if you don't ditch the peeler, you can actually make your own homemade crisps from the potato skins. Instead of popping them in the bin, put them in a bowl, add a little bit of olive oil, salt, pepper, and your favourite spices, and pop in the oven 180 for 10 minutes, and you will literally have a crisp. And it's a much healthier one than our favourite Walkers because they're not deep fat fried. So if you're looking for a healthy twist on something quite delicious, have a go and let us know what you think. Now, my 6th top tip is cook and freeze. The freezer is brilliant for storing food past its best. So if you see a potato like this, which actually I didn't know was in my cupboard, so it was really great and timely. What I could do instead of, if I don't want to use it now and I don't fancy potatoes, because it's quite hot outside, prepare it, make some mashed potato, roast potatoes, put them in the freezer, and they're ready for your Sunday roast if you're putting a quick one together. And finally, my 7th tip is use your potatoes in leftovers. So if we ever do a roast in my house, there is always potatoes left. I don't know why, but instead of just popping them in the bin, you can make a classic, which actually dates back years and years, called the bubble and squeak, which is basically a throw it in the pan of all your vegetables from your Sunday roast. So your cabbage, your potato, your carrots, the leftover gravy, pour it all on once you've fried it all together, and you've got a really delicious and nutritious meal then the next day without any vegetables going in the bin. So they are my 7 top tips. Maybe you knew them, maybe you didn't, but I want to ask you guys, do you have any other top tips that you could share with us in terms of not wasting or throwing away any parts of the potato? Please, Donna, do you have one?
It is, if you have a garden, you can have a compost bin.
Yes.
So yeah. I've got like a little bin in the kitchen that I put all my potato peelings now, but yeah, all the stuff that isn't used, and then put it into the compost bin.
That's brilliant. Yeah, and yeah, that still then biodegrades in a sensible way, doesn't it? It doesn't go to landfill where it creates greenhouse gases. It goes to compost. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
We've also, just to jump in, sorry Ffion, we've been doing loads of like potato salads. If I've overdone the new potatoes,
yeah.
If I cook too many new potatoes one night, we end up with potato salad the next day. So we keep using those cold potatoes for I don't know how long. Or
You're right, and they will keep in the fridge, won't they? So you can just pop them in the fridge, whip up a vinaigrette, and you've got a potato salad. Actually, our chef Roger, one of our hairy harvesters, has recently just done how to make a potato salad and a classic vinaigrette with just 3 ingredients. So if you head over to our YouTube, you can see Roger in action showing you how to make a delicious potato salad. So thank you, Sarah. That was a really good idea.
Yeah, if they are going a bit soft, if you put them in some cold water, that'll firm them up and makes them easier to peel and do things like that. So
that is a good one. I've not actually tried that, but it makes sense because when they go a bit funny, that's because the water in them is getting disrupted. So if we give them a bit of life, it's a brilliant idea. Thank you, David.
I was going to say as well, I actually read somewhere if you do peel your potatoes, you can actually plant the potato peel in the ground, and it could sprout some new potatoes. So it's always worth trying.
That is a good idea. Yeah, I mean, pop it in there, give it a go. If any of you tried that, let me know if it works. That would be a good one for us to report back on.
I get the mesh bags from Sainsbury's. I've got 2 or 3 of them, and so it saves the plastic when you buy the vegetables. But also, I keep my potatoes in there in the cupboard in the dark, and it actually lets them breathe because it's not like keeping it in the plastic bag or whatever. So.
Yeah, and that's so good in a different environmental way, isn't it? Not using all the plastic, and you're actually you're meant to store onions as well with potatoes, but that mesh bag will stop them smelling as well. So that's a brilliant idea. Thank you, Jane. Okay, we're going to move on to chat about bread now. And as you guess, bread is another most wasted food in the UK, our second most wasted food. It's actually been part of our food culture and our food system since dating back to 8000 BC. So we've had it all these years, and we have it every day. It's again a staple item. We get bread rolls, focaccia, wraps, pita breads, the list goes on. And I think because it is again another staple, which we could whip up at home ourselves, or we can buy it from the shop. Again, we don't value it, and if a bit goes a bit crusty and a bit dry and a bit stale, we can just throw it away because we know we can get a fresh one. But that is not the attitude we need to have if we want to reduce food waste. So we can use bread in different ways. Now, similarly to potatoes, we throw away a lot of bread. We throw away millions of slices a day. And those millions of slices a day actually equate to 780 cars worth in weight of bread a day, which is shocking. And these aren't this isn't bread that is moldy, which is actually not safe to eat. These are odd crusts and ends and the end bits no one wants in your loaf of bread, that are perfectly safe to eat. So we're going to go through, again, another few points about how we can use our bread and how we can revive our bread if it does go a bit stale, because stale doesn't mean bad. So first things first, the main reason why bread gets thrown in the bin is because we almost don't get through it in time before it starts going stale. I think we can all probably agree there's always a few slices left at the bottom of the bread bin, which we kind of forget about. Now, my first tip to you then is buy what you need. Similarly to the potatoes, instead of getting a big loaf of bread, why not try getting a little smaller loaf if you are struggling to get through your big loaf? Now, the only negative about these loaves, which I do get, is they are a bit more expensive for what you get. However, if we as consumers drive the demand for these smaller loaves, the prices will drop, and so will the amount of bread wasted a day, because we're not letting it go mouldy, we're using it up. And it's so easy to go grab some more, isn't it? So if we run out more quickly than we thought, at least we can get another fresh loaf. Okay, so that is my first top tip. Number 2 is, what shall we do next? Number 2 is store bread correctly. Similarly to potatoes, they need to be stored in a cool, dark and dry place. Okay, so not the fridge, because the fridge similarly has got lots of moisture, can actually make the bread go off really, really quick. Number 3 is also to do with storing and being aware of when our bread has gone off and is safe to eat. And this is all about the best before and use by date, which can be quite confusing because we're never taught what these mean and the words sound very similar. So basically, best before refers to the quality of bread. And this just means up until this date, the bread is at its best. It's going to be its most plump and juicy, if you get juicy bread. And after this date, it might not be as nice, but it's still safe to eat. Whereas the use by date of the bread is when you really should have used it by. This is a safe date for safety, because after this date, your bread might be growing mold on it and spores, which can actually not be very pleasant for you to eat. Some people do choose to eat food past this date, and that is their choice, because some people know what to look out for, but we say follow use by and best before dates because we want to keep safe. We don't want to be getting an upset stomach or anything. Now, there is a difference between bread that has actually gone stale and bread that has gone off. Stale bread is still edible, okay? And I think that's why we get so much bread in the bin, because people think, oh, it's gone a bit hard and dry, I need to throw it away. But actually, there's many things we can do to revive bread and use it in a different way if it's stale. So my first way to revive bread is chuck it in the toaster. We've all done it. We fancied a sandwich and it's a bit horrible. Chuck it in the toaster, bit of butter, and you're fine. No need for the bin. The second way to revive bread, which is one I actually discovered recently and is a really good way of giving it a new lease of life, is taking your end bit of bread that's gone a bit stale, wrapping it in a tea towel, which has been dampened slightly, and pop it in the oven for about 5 to 10 minutes. And you will see that it kind of springs back. And if you eat it straight away, it's good as new, okay? So number 3 is breadcrumbs. If you've got a bit of bread that's gone off, going off, it's stale, blend it into breadcrumbs. I've just got a smoothie maker and it does the job fine. Pop it in a freezer bag or a Tupperware and pop it in the freezer, ready for when you're making anything. You could use it in fish cakes, burgers, topping it on a macaroni cheese. It's my favourite to give you that bit of crunch. The same with any kind of pasta bake. The possibilities are endless, and it just saves it from going in the bin. Okay. Number 4 is croutons. I mean, it's not really soup weather at the minute, but you can use croutons on your salad, and they're so easy to make at home as well. You can buy them. You're going to get plastic packaging as well with there, which we know isn't good for the environment. Our super chefs, Roger and Simon, our hairy harvesters, have actually made croutons on one of our YouTube videos. So if you go to the YouTube video, mushroom soup, you'll find them making it there, or you can head to our website and the recipe is as part of the soup recipes there. So go check that out if you fancy reviving your bread into some croutons. And my next kind of thing which I love doing is bread and butter pudding. Bread and butter pudding is smothered in a milky sugary custard. So of course that bread that's not so fresh anymore is going to get that new lease of life, which is going to be delicious. And number 8, something for wraps and pita bread, are tortilla chips. Instead of buying your normal Doritos, literally take your bread in the form of pita breads or wraps, toss them in olive oil and your favourite spices. You can really get creative. Pop them in the oven for 10 or so minutes until they're crispy, and you're good to go. Simon, one of our chefs, did an amazing hummus to go with pita bread, which he actually made. So he could have made some of the pita chips. So go check out the hummus recipe. That's really good to go with that. And our final option to make with slightly stale bread is a bit of a different one, and it's good if you have a sweet and savoury tooth. We call them cinnamon sugar bread crusts, and it is basically buttery bread. Melt butter in the microwave, soak it in your slightly stale bread, which is actually better to use than fresh. Sprinkle with a bit of salt and cinnamon and pop in the oven, and you'll have this churro-like snack. So watch out for the recipe on our website, because we're going to get our hairy harvesters to make these as a bit of a treat. Okay, so I hope that some of those might have been new to you, or you knew them already and you feel a bit empowered to kind of reduce your food waste. Do you have any other tips you'd like to share to do with bread or any kind of bread items? Donna?
Yeah, because I live on my own, and obviously a loaf of bread I'm just never going to get through. So what I do when I get the bread home, half of it I just put into just freeze a couple of slices and like together, and then just pop them in the freezer so that I just take them out.
That is just a classic thing to do as well, and they just come apart so easily. So
that's the problem. If you put the whole thing in, they just all stick together. So if you just separate them,
a rattle. That is a perfect one. So you as well as keeping in the cupboard, the freezer is also perfectly fine. And it kind of almost keeps it fresher. It stops it going stale, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Get it in there straight away.
Apparently the carbohydrate content is lower on frozen bread than it is on fresh bread.
Yes, I think there is something to do with the glycemic index in frozen bread that does make it easier for your digestive system to digest, basically. So there's always positives. Yeah.
Another question I had that Donna might know the answer to, I don't know, is can you compost bread?
I don't actually. And it's a new composting thing. I've got a seed specialist that's moved in with me and renting a room, and she's set up the compost bin. You can put cardboard in, which I didn't know. Okay. I don't know about bread though, but that's an interesting one. Amazing. Should we Google it?
Yeah, there is actually a company out there that make bread into beer. So there are ways in which you can use beer to make bread, which I thought was really fascinating. They take all the wastage as well, I've heard.
If you don't like the crust, which I think is the best part of the loaf anyway, but if you don't like the crust, you can buy crustless loaves. So then you're not wasting the crust at either end or around the outside of the piece of bread.
Brilliant, yeah. You're just eliminating from that. Yeah, if you don't get it, you don't waste it. Yeah. And we've just had Lucy pop-ups. They are called Crumbs Brewery. Can't get my words out. Crumbs Brewery. And so check them out. I'm sure they'll do a home delivery, something to keep us all going during this nice weather as well. Any other ideas?
Yeah, just going back to the best before date, people I've been working with, the charity, have been obviously doing a lot through COVID, and I did some research on the RAP site, the waste recycling for charities who are providing food and other resources, and their actual advice about best before dates. They've got some very good stuff, and for bread and products like that, they're saying it's good for at least a week after the best before date.
Yeah.
That's the official government advice and various other things. So
that's a really good point to make, because David's right. Sometimes it is the kind of worst case scenario with best before dates, because companies don't want you to go, you made me ill because you put the date as this and I ate it before that. But no, it's there's room to give, isn't there, David, in terms of that? And you can, with bread specifically, you can see when there's mold on there and when it's not good. So yeah, you can take that educated decision. Thank you, David.
We also had a lot of bread at the start that we couldn't give out to people because it was past dates, and we kept some for feeding the birds out in the park. And we were putting some of the Warburton stuff that's all wrapped up, and you were taking that about 20 days after its best before date.
Really?
And it was still, yeah, a bit stale, but it was still, you could have still eaten it. And unfortunately, it just shows that.
Yeah, they do put some, depending on the bread you get, there can be a lot of preservatives, which are a positive because it makes your bread last longer. But if you are quite aware of those things, you might want to check what is actually in your bread, because if you make bread at home, it never lasts as long, does it? Not because you've eaten it all, but because it starts to go a little bit stale. Okay, any others? No? Okay, well, thank you. Oh, Donna, yeah?
Oh, no, sorry, I did Google that. Yes, you can compost it.
You can.
And it breaks down very quickly, apparently.
Brilliant. That's really good to know, actually. If you've got a garden, composting is the way, definitely. Now, I just wanted to thank you all for coming along. It's our first session of doing our live Zooms, and it's something we really want to continue. So we are going to ask you for feedback. I'm going to send you a very short feedback questionnaire on kind of what you enjoyed, what you didn't, and ask you what you would like to learn about. So as I mentioned, we are a food rescue and education charity, and we thought we'd kick off with food waste, as that is one of our big aims. In the Nourish Ed programmes, as I said, we cover nutrition and health topics, and I am a registered nutritionist. So there is lots of kind of nutrition knowledge and topics I would love to share with you alongside those about food waste. So when I ask you for feedback, if you could take a few minutes to do that, that would be amazing. And we want to do more of these and make them what you want to dial in and listen about, basically. So I'd really value that. And thank you again for dialing in. I'm going to hang around for a little while till you all go. So if you want to hang around for a bit of a chat or have any questions, please do. And if not, hopefully see you at our next Zoom.